There's our side that had the huge split in it. So this is just straight acoustic, straight up. There's an electric system here. Okay, so I've looped this A major thing. Well, this Martin guitar with a split on the bass side from just past the waist almost right to the tail block. As I got inside to place that plexiglass plate up against the sides, and then eventually put one string at a time into my little crack jigs that I've made for pulling the sides flush, because this crack, it's not just that it's separated this way, but it shifted so it wasn't level. So these jigs that I've made up pull the two sides of the crack dead level as I clamp down. I'm just about to do that now. Mix up some hide glue. This will be done in multiple steps, but yeah. I've got 4 of my little guitar crack winches. This is another one of those jobs that's much easier to explain as I disassemble. So that's the Lexan backer plate that I heated up with a hairdryer and bent and fitted into place to be able to use those string winches and to ensure that both sides of the crack were flush. Many of you have been listening to me sort of extol the virtues of hide glue. This is one of them. It doesn't stick to lacquer. There's no other glue that you could get away with this. So I whipped that hide glue into that crack, made sure that it was good and saturated. I didn't really have to be concerned about the outside because it's going to be touched up anyway, but as you can see, the hide glue doesn't stick to lacquer. Okay, I just wanted to quickly show you that. It just kind of flakes right off. I'm using my sharpened tongue depressor as a soft knife edge to sort of clean that up. Anyway, we're going to get back to this later because we still need to put all the cleats in along this crack. We're not done yet. So I've got an old soundboard here and I cut out 10 circular cleats with my plug cutter, and then I thinned them out, just held them with one finger on the radius disc sander. So now we'll mix up some more hide glue for these 10 cleats and we'll follow that fault line of the crack. Well, we got that crack sealed up pretty good. I'm happy with that. I have this circular patch that I put on. So I'm going to pull that magnet off and then we're going to back up for a second and I will explain precisely how I got to this stage. We have 7 circular quarter sawn patches along that fault line. So that's how I affix the patch to the magnet. That's how we glue that centered on the fault line. So now that I've got that centered on the magnet, I can put a little dab of hot hide glue on there. So with the magnetism guiding me, I hold this magnet over the fault line and reach in with my mangled palette knife and let the magnetism guide the patch into place. So this magnet is held dead center on the crack, and this one is fed in through the sound hole with a little dab of hot hide glue on there, and that way I know I'm centered. That's our last patch. So now I can reconnect the input jack and the battery cable that I had to disconnect in order to do this job. So that last cleat is now set. So the battery and the end pin jack for this system has been reinstalled. I've just got to put the cable ties back on the inside and rub it out, and we should be good to go. Welcome back, everyone. Saturday morning. As I wrap up that Martin guitar of Fred's with a huge crack that we repaired, I thought I'd take a minute to sort of go through the design of these jigs that I use. So as you can see, it's a machine head. I have a couple of dowels in there, and I've put, you know, those little screws that you get for holding the machine head down. I installed those in the ends of the dowel, so this way it opens up just enough to get that string through. You saw them on the guitar, but I thought I would take a minute and explain. Like, this is, as you can see, sort of a concave shape. This is also concave. So this is one of the crack winches that you saw me use on that job, and you can see that it has a concave form that spreads along the length of the crack. That's what pulled that portion together flush. You can see that this doesn't have a curvature, it's basically straight. This one has a slight curvature, less than these two. So those two dowels allow the blocks to spread so you can get the string in there. Once you get the string in, you can kind of close it up a little bit. The nice thing about this, and especially that repair that I just did, I really needed to saturate that entire joint. You got to remember, you got about 80-85 thou of thickness of that rosewood on either side of that crack. So that's not a lot of gluing surface. And you'll notice that even after taking these jigs off, I left those quick grip clamps on until I had glued in a few of those circular cleats to hold that crack. So as you can see, it's kind of a step-by-step process. But we are definitely on the home stretch now. Let's get back to the guitar for a second. This is what we ended up with. I am just going to flip that up on its edge, and we got enough lacquer left on that rosewood. I should be able to just rub this out. When you think of the gaping crack that was there at the beginning of this video, it's come a long way. So we're going to go with that. Very happy with the result. The last thing we're left to do with this guitar, the lay of the neck actually on this guitar is beautiful. And this has got one of those, the plastic or whatever it is that Martin used instead of ebony. And I got to admit, the reaction to the neck under string load and the truss rod itself are both working beautifully with this ebonite, or whatever it's called. I did not glue the nut in because we need to do a light fret dress. Fred has logged in some serious time on this guitar. You can see by the fret wear. Just stick that tongue depressor into there to pull those strings out of the way. And when I'm doing a quick fret dress like this, there's a little trick to kind of get those strings to pull out of the way as we do our work. I will be putting a new set of strings on. When you have a preamp that has exposed open circuit electronics, you don't want to get steel wool filings in there. So masking off the sound hole like 100% becomes even more important. So there's no need to use a leveling file in this instance. We will just use the scrub block, and we will scrub out with 400, 600, 800, 1200 those minute marks in the first 8 frets or so. So this is the 400 grit, and as you can see, the guitar is actually held by the body. Fretboard access is wide open for me to edge dress. I don't need to in this case, but to edge dress or fret dress or do any type of fret work without any clamps or vices getting in the way of my work. It's wide open. Not only is it wide open, but this orientation lets me see exactly what I'm doing and the job as it progresses. So here's our first use of the scrub block with the 400 grit to just get rid of those minute marks in the first, like I said, 8 frets or so. There isn't enough wear to warrant pulling the frets. There's my 600 grit. I'm sure even the camera picks up the sonic difference between 400 and 600. You can hear the sound change with the lighter grit. Now all traces of string wear are completely gone. I much prefer to have the instrument elevated a little bit, so I'm not kind of hunched over all day. Anyone who's done an 8-hour day working on guitars understands exactly what I mean. Final buff with a jeweler's rouge. Okay, we quickly get rid of any trace of compound. A little dab of lemon oil, wipe it on, wipe it off. I mean, it isn't wood, so it's not like it needs to be oiled, but you know, it just cleans it up, makes it look nice. Maybe makes some people think that it might actually be wood. You know, I have to admit that, you know, it is responsible of Martin to design a product that takes the place of the endangered species ebony. You know, it performs the task. Well, you can see that there is a respectable amount of wear on this guitar. There are a few sort of nicks and scrapes and knocks and bumps, and that's kind of typical for a guitar that is actually played. Fred logged in some pretty serious playing time on this guitar. You can see the typical wear on the edge of the sound hole, even some pick scrape marks across here where he maybe got a little rambunctious with his strumming. But overall, the guitar's in pretty good shape, and now that that gaping crack is taken care of, this guitar will be good for a long time to come. So here is the finished compensated cantilevered bridge saddle, and of course this is 12 to 53 at concert pitch. And there is a final peek at the compensated nut.